Morning, we're just going to dive straight into this one. I've received an anonymous email from someone that is very disgruntled about Gridserve and has got some insider information and is a bit concerned that they are saying that they are able to do something that they are not. Sounds like the EV movement all over, doesn't it? Now, interestingly, Gridserve were the company that threatened to sue Lee, the Macmaster, if he filmed on their premises again, despite the fact that he hadn't actually said anything bad about them. They were extremely aggressive with their marketing department with Lee. And for that reason, I'm quite happy to read this out today from this disgruntled chap. The reason for my message is regarding Gridserve, and as the song goes, there may be trouble ahead. It was a shambles when I worked there. The CEO and most of the top jobs were held by these saving the planet net zero climate clock ideologues, completely unqualified for the challenge of EV charging installation on a national scale. Although they did have many great engineers, technicians and other good people working for them, to be fair, it's an impossible task as we just don't have the infrastructure for everyone to change to EVs in the UK. That's why Starlin Starmer wants to pile on the whole country, and even then it won't work if we go down the route of unreliable green power. The thought of Ed Miliband making key energy security decisions is terrifying. Anyway, I digress. No one got full bonuses last December because the company had not hit investor targets. The same investors who'd pumped in £500 million in July of 2023, which is publicly known. So it was only in April the company decided to make a 50% bonus payment to employees to help with staff morale and retention. The leasing arm of the business was also failing to hit its required targets. There's no surprise there. The head of operations left around April and was replaced, not sure whether he found a new opportunity or the investors needed a different guy in charge. But recently, I've seen a surprising number of my ex-Gridserve colleagues on LinkedIn looking for new job opportunities. And these were people who were good at their jobs, unlike the people at the top. They weren't planning on leaving, to my knowledge. Many had families and mortgages, etc., and are now suddenly without a job. I can't say for sure, but it could be as many as a quarter of employees are in a similar position, certainly a large number. It looks like redundancies to me, but I'm speculating and I'm hoping you can get someone in the industry to confirm. It's certainly not what you would expect from a growing business of the future with $500 million in investment just over a year ago. The plot thickens as I've then spotted the old founder and CEO, Toddington Harper, and his brother Heston, and yes, they were both named after service stations, plus the chief finance officer, have all been moved out of Gridserve Sustainable Energy a month ago to Gridserve Global, and this person's found that on LinkedIn. So it's obviously a big and serious restructure that's going on. The CEO loved his pet sun-to-wheel solar projects and overly designed charging forecourt projects like at Gatwick. Both were financially unviable projects as far as the investors were concerned, so I imagine they've been axed or heavily stripped back, hence the job losses. If it wasn't for the massive investment the company received, it feels like they would clearly be in trouble, especially as the investment was off the back of EV uptake projections that are very unlikely to materialise because EVs don't work as a viable purchase for the vast majority of people. Will this restructure save the company's government contract for the electric highway delivery? From what I saw, it was a near impossible task in the medium term, let alone the short term. I'm guessing the government or green investment firms might have stepped in and forced these changes to keep any charging infrastructure delivery problems quiet and to keep the electric highway fantasy going. The electric highway was going nowhere when the green grifter Dale Vince, who owns Ecotricity, sold the contract to Gridserve. Don't you hate it when all these green bad actors make fortunes? They really are just snake oil salesmen. On to why we are being conned by charging companies in multiple ways. To stop large queues ending in more fights and bad publicity around EVs at the services, they have to employ people to manage queues, especially during school holidays. They're also putting banks of additional chargers in before they could secure any additional grid, which may take months or years. So the original capacity was just being divided by a greater number of charging bays. And that's why you can be sitting at a rapid charger expecting 180 kilowatts, but only getting 50 kilowatts. They have modulators which direct the incoming grid energy to the car with the least charge, so I reckon that's another reason they say not to charge above 80%. I have a question for you, Geoff. Do you think the following example breaks the Trade Description Act in advertising? So you have the likes of ZapMap advertising that there's two 360 kilowatt ultra rapid chargers in an area, so you make it your charging destination. But what you're not told is that the grid connection could only be 2 megawatts, which means under 5 cars you'll get the advertised charging level. But if 19 cars join you, you'd only get a maximum of 100 kilowatt charging rate and a much longer wait. That's a very simple fictional example, but it hopefully explains the deception as I see it. In reality, this is happening now and will probably happen more in the future as grid connections are getting more expensive and availability is limited. Therefore, smaller supplies are likely to be applied for by charging companies, but it doesn't stop a charging company currently omitting to tell you that there isn't enough energy to meet the totality of installed chargers capabilities, which is higher. I hope that makes sense. I've seen your friend MacMaster and Richard from Challenge the Road comment on the lower level of charge they sometimes receive, and I thought to myself, it's probably got a smaller grid connection than advertised on the chargers when all of them are in use. So maybe you can suggest they investigate this. I personally think the grid connection should be advertised at each public charging station and what the real charge rate is when all the chargers are occupied. A bit like EVs should be sold saying what their winter range with a heater on would be, but that's a separate conversation. I hope I've given you some interesting new insights and you can dig a bit deeper and ask your mate Quentin to do so. Oh no, sorry, he doesn't like the truth and reality when it comes to all things EV. But one thing is for sure, something is amiss in the world of Gridserve EV charging. Thank you very much, anonymous person, for that email. A couple of things to pick out of that. £500 million in new investment pumped in July 2023. That's interesting. Obviously not treating their staff well with not paying a bonus payment. Interesting staff movements. And then you've got the restructuring of the company on LinkedIn, which is obviously suspicious. The fact that you've got the CEO and his brother both named after service stations, hilarious. If they have a younger brother arrive, are they going to call it Gloucester? So that's brilliant. And then you've got this whole sun-to-wheel solar project. Overly designed charging forecourt projects like at Gatwick, which are financially unviable. So essentially, you've got some very interesting bad actors. I like the point about Dale Vince, green bad actors who make fortunes. He seems like a Bond villain, doesn't he, Dale Vince? Don't you think? Someone who's just there to rip off as many people as possible and take advantage of the government whilst pretending to be doing the right thing for the environment. It's like every classic Bond villain that we get in these movies. And then you've got the last bit, which is the example about Trade Description Act. Companies advertising that they're going to be able to give you X rate of charging when they know full well that they're only going to be able to give you Y rate of charging. So there's some definite trade description stuff in there. So let me know what you think. If you know some more, then do pop me an email over. And yeah, thank you very much. Always happy to receive anonymous emails. Cheers for watching.